All right, welcome back to Mike's Gun World. Today, I'm going to start what's going to be a three-part episode on the Smith & Wesson 38 double action top break. This particular firearm is a family heirloom. It was my grandfather's, passed down to my father, and then passed down to me. I didn't know a lot about this gun, and I really didn't know what I had in my collection until I decided that I wanted to go and fire it, and I realized that it had a problem. Now, I did fire it back in the 1990s. I had no problems with it at all. It fires 38 Smith & Wesson, not 38 Special, 38 Smith & Wesson. It fired fine in the 90s. I pulled it out not too long ago, and it was kind of, I wouldn't say jamming, but the trigger pull and the hammer were kind of getting stuck, and I wasn't really sure why. It went back in the safe, and I forgot about it for a while. But it was time to pull it out and take it down and figure out what was wrong with it. Now, part of the problem with taking it down was I didn't really know what I had in my hands. So I took it all the way down and then realized there wasn't a bunch of information on the internet about it. It was pretty silly of me. And I tell this to anybody: if you're going to take a firearm down, take good pictures, take good videos, understand all the parts and pieces as you're taking it down to make it easier to put back together. Now, I broke my own cardinal rules, and I didn't take very good video or very good pictures. And it was only then that I realized I had something a little bit special on my hands, and a little bit older. And as I started to do the research, although I found some good videos on YouTube about the firearm and actually shooting it, there is nothing out there about disassembly or reassembly about this. So I had a lot of trial and error over the course of a couple days trying to put the gun back together and identify all the parts. Now, in doing my research, I did obviously find the parts. Numeric has a parts list for the gun. It's not necessarily a schematic, but it's a part list, so I can identify all the different parts and pieces. There are no schematics that I can find. Maybe in some of the older Smith & Wesson books out there, there's something out there that will show you how to disassemble, reassemble. I haven't really found it. But here's the other thing. In doing the research, I figured out what I actually had on my hands, and I realized what good condition this firearm is actually in. Now, they built these from about 1876. And some of my information might be wrong in doing my research, but this is what I found. And remember, if you're liking my videos, hit like and subscribe. Leave comments down below if you have something to say about this firearm or anything else that we do. I'll always be happy to take some feedback. I'm not going to say my information is 100% accurate. It's the research that I've done on this particular firearm. It had 5 different models, and with little tweaks and variations. And I'm not going to go through all the variations. I do have them. If anybody has questions on the differences between the models, ask me, and I'd be happy to answer them. But Model 1 was serial number 1 through 25,000, and it was produced between 1876 and 1877. Model 2 had serial numbers 25,000 to about 119,000, and they were produced from 1877 to about 1891. Then Model 3 had serial numbers 119,000 to 322,700, and they were produced from 1891 to about 1895. Now, this gun is serial number 305 and some change. So we know it's manufactured somewhere between 1891 and 1895, probably a little bit closer to 1895. And that's when I realized, man, I've got something really unique on my hands, especially for the condition that it's in. Then Model 4 runs 322,539, 1895 to 1909. And then the 5th model of the 38 double action has serial numbers 539 to 554,077, and that runs 1909 to the conclusion, the final run in 1911. That's when it was discontinued. So they made 500 and a little more than 500,000 of these, 554,000 of these. I have serial number 305 and change, like I said. It's really, really in good condition. I did do a little polishing on the nickel. There was just a little bit of, I wouldn't say rust, but there was some marring on here, and I'm going to do a little bit more. But this one's in really nice shape. I'm going to get it up close to the camera. You can see that the trigger guard is blued, which really makes it pop with the nickel finish. I do have a different top brake that is blued, so we're going to replace that too and put that blued top brake back in place. And then the bluing will be here in the trigger guard and of course the black handles. So let's open it up, make sure that we are unloaded. We are. I don't know if you can get a look in the cylinders, but this gun down the barrel is in really, really good shape and very comfortable firing this. I do have a box of 38 Smith & Wesson. When I am done with this project, I do intend to take it to the range and run a couple of rounds through it. Now, like I said, one of the problems I had is when I was pulling the trigger, it would occasionally jam right about there. So something was going on in there, and that's what caused me to actually break the firearm down and take a look inside. And I did find what the problem was. It was a mainspring saddle. The pin it was missing. I don't know how the pin that tiny, and when we get in there I'll show you the pin. It's really, really, really tiny and easy to lose. I can't see it falling out. I kind of have a hard time seeing it break, but it wasn't there. So the mainspring wasn't always seating correctly in there, and it was a mainspring that was pinning the hammer back and not allowing it to come back and fire. Now, when I took it down, I ended up breaking the cylinder stop, which caused me to go out and have to do a whole bunch of searching around for parts. And I did find a parts lot that had a number of different parts and pieces for, I think, a Model 4, but the parts do work in here. One of them was the hammer with the correct saddle and pin in there, and I installed that newer hammer as opposed to taking the pin out and putting it into my grandfather's hammer and putting it back together. I managed to put it all back together. It works great in double action, no problem at all. The cylinder stop is working correctly. The problem is now in the rear sear. The hammer itself will not hold back in place. I can feel the rear sear trying to hold it in place, but it's just not holding it in place. So there is no single action mode right now. It's only double action. So that has to be taken care of, because that is definitely a problem, and that's going to make me take this firearm down yet again. So that's how we got here. Part 2 is going to be the disassembly and the correction of that rear sear, and then again, like I said, part 3 will be the reassembly. So thanks for tuning in to Mike's Gun World. We're going to see you real soon with part 2 of our Smith & Wesson 38 Model 3 late 1800s top brake double action. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon.